It is a football Friday, and I will tell you this. Make no mistake about it. We are now getting ready to rev the engines up, and we are not only on the runway, but we are traveling down the runway because we're 11 days away from the start of Eagle training camp. 6 days until the Jets start their training camp. I mean, we're right here, folks. But as always, and I'm reminded by Krause, our signature start to the program, Big Silz. Hope everybody is having a great week. Friday is awesome. Get you ready for the weekend. I got a lot of things working this weekend, and my daughter's going to be in a rugby tournament this weekend. We're so looking forward to that. So, again, guys, we appreciate you picking us in each and every single day, Monday through Friday, 2 to 6 Eastern time, coming here. Also, 50 days when I get to talk more shit on Howie Roseman because it's Gators versus Canes in that place called the Swamp. And I am looking forward to that because that used to kick off one of the absolutely greatest rivalries in college football. Was Gators Canes. I've never been in an environment in my entire life like the one in Gainesville. I've never seen anything like it. You know, there are hostile places that you can go play. The NFL doesn't really have those kind of play. Well, that's not true. You go into Philly, I would say probably more the Vet than the Link. But when you're talking about rivalries, and you're talking college football, especially in the Deep South. Now, Ohio State, Michigan, obviously, one of the great rivalries in college football. And when you put those two fan bases together, it is great. I think FSU, Miami's kind of lost it a little bit because Miami has not been relevant for the last 24 years. And I say that with great pride that I love the program. You know I love the program, but we haven't been a superstar program for the last 25 years. This year, I feel pretty good about the program, but there's nothing like that rivalry when you were able to go up there in front of 75,000 fans. I mean, we both had home win streaks. I think the Gators, when we went up there in 86, had a 25 home game win streak. They were one of the best teams in college football. They were on probation. Charlie Pell had them. But, man, I'll tell you something, 75 to 85,000 fans in that building screaming at you like that. 90% of them, obviously, Gator fans. It's one of the great environments I've ever played in. And we were fortunate enough to come out of there with a win because that nothing like going into that place and getting a win. Got to say this, and I want to start the program off. And I don't want to start the program off here on a shit note, but I didn't watch the ESPYs last night. And here's why. You guys don't come here for my political opinions. Now, Big Silz sprinkles some of them in. But most people don't want my political views. That's why when Krause and Xander and all these guys, they'll say this to you. Let's get back on the sports. You know why? They're not saying because they don't think I have a right to say something. They're just like, Silz, I don't come here for that. And they're right. They are right. But again, as Angelo said, on the program this week, by the way, that thing's killing it. 25,000 people have viewed that thing this week. 25,000 people have viewed it. So thank you very much. Over 600 likes on that thing. It's crazy. And it was all over the Howard Eskin conversation that supposedly he's going to be on the air tomorrow at WIP. Anyway, you don't come here for my political views. My aunt said something yesterday to me. She goes, I heard you throw Democrat out. Really? And she's right also. Nobody cares. You barely care about my own sports takes. So when I watch ESPN and I watch the ESPYs and I hear 2 hours of political daggers being thrown, I boycott it. I completely boycott it. So if you're going to ask me what happened last night, I have no idea. I don't watch that shit because I don't watch a sports network pretending to be a cheap man's version of CNN. It's not what I do. I want news. I'll go to Fox News or C-SPAN. If I want sports, I'll come here or some other places that don't inundate me with their political slants. So I got text this morning. Silz, what did you think of the ESPYs? I go, I don't give a shit. I could care less what those people think. I really do. It's a Biden network, and I don't go there to listen to that. I don't watch a network that alienates half the country. That's the greatest thing that Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods ever did. You know why? They never alienated people they were selling merchandise to. You know why? They're people that sell to consumers. That's what a sports network. It's the reason why ESPN's numbers are tanking. They've lost 18 million people in the last 10 years. It's why Bob Iger wants them to go completely digital and take them off the platform, because they completely know ESPN's tanking. By the way, this isn't an opinion. People have left the network. They don't watch it any longer. They just don't. I mean, because they try to tell you who to vote for. So, people are going, hey, what'd you think of this, that, Caitlin? And I'm like, I didn't watch it. I don't watch that any longer. I have no interest in shit like that. Again, I pick and choose. If I want to go to a sub shop, I go to a sub shop. If I want to listen to sports, I go to Big Silz, and we appreciate you there. Guys, we're not going to tell you ever who to vote for. Take your vaccination. It's not my place. It's your decision. That's how we talk here. It is one of the last places on the planet that people can have a conversation on anything. And not to be afraid of anything. It's why we work. Okay? It's why we work, man. So please, we appreciate you guys. Hoping to get Xander on at 3:30. Philly Godfather also at 5:30. We appreciate that. So again, we look forward to Philly Godfather at 5:30. So let's start it off with this. Yes, that Pat Tillman thing is one of the reasons why I officially boycotted it. Man who gave his life for his country, and you give it to some asshole like Prince Harry. The Pat Tillman Award? For some guy overseas that doesn't give a shit. He and his phony-ass wife. You kidding me, right? How about giving it to a man who gave his life for his country? I don't give a shit what he did for England. I could care less. I care about somebody who gives his life for his country. That's who I care about. United States soldiers. How about somebody who died in Afghanistan? How about one of those 13 that were left in Afghanistan that died? Think the Pat Tillman Award would be a good look on that? Probably. You imagine giving up your contract with the Arizona Cardinals and saying, I got to go fight for my country now because we're under attack? That's what Pat did. I had the pleasure of knowing him. Covering Stanford football, I was a sideline reporter, and then working for the Pac-12 when I was at KMBR. I got a chance to meet him. Pretty cool stuff. Before we start, I got to give condolences out to Lane Kiffin and his family. One of the absolutely greatest people I've ever met in my life is Monty Kiffin. Monty was a defensive coordinator of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and all numerous places where he stopped, and I would compare him to Jim Johnson. Winner of a Super Bowl, putting that great Tampa 2 defense with Tony Dungy together in Tampa. He saved careers like John Lynch and made careers like Derek Brooks and Warren Sapp and Simeon Rice, Brad Culpepper, Rondé Barber, all those players, the coaches that he had, Mike Tomlin, Lovie Smith, Raheem Morris, all these guys were on his coaching staff in Tampa that he and Tony Dungy put together by giving opportunities to minority coaches to come into his coaching staff on that side of the football, created one of the great defenses of all time. One of the greatest dudes. Come on, Salio, run them bags. Come on, Salio. I'll never forget, man. We were on a station, WDAE. We didn't have the rights of the Buccaneers at that time. We ended up getting them a couple of years later. So you know what they did? They put me in a cherry picker, and they put me over the practice field at Pepin Rood. This Pepin Rood used to be a place where the Buccaneers practiced. I practiced there when I was with the Bucs. And they put me in this cherry picker, and I would broadcast my show while they had training camp there at Pepin Rood Stadium. It's the University of Tampa, if some of you are familiar with that. And I would sit there, and then guess what I would do? We would bring the cherry picker down, and some of the coaches and players, and we would bring them back up because we weren't allowed on the premises. So we came up with this idea. It was a fabulous idea. Then the next year, the opposing station, they did whatever to keep us off the premises. But we did it one year. So Monty came over. Once Monty came over, I had never met him at the time. So Monty came over. He goes, let's do some talking here. So we start talking about defense, and we start talking. Then he started inviting me over too, because he goes, you're a Buck. He started inviting me to practice, and I started going there, and I started watching Sapp and Culpepper and bunch of other guys they started bringing in there. It was really an education being around Monty. I'd go into some of the coaching meetings with him. He was absolutely sensational to listen to talking. Passed away yesterday, and he'll go down, in my opinion, as one of the greatest defensive coordinators. Bud Carson, Jim Johnson, him. There's so many great ones that have been in this league. He's one of them. And so condolences to the Buck family, to Lane Kiffin. Lane, I sent him a text, and he was like, yeah, that was my hero. Just truly great, man. I mean, he introduced Lane to his first wife, John Reeves. And John Reeves is a former Gator coach. And she worked in the Buck front office. And he put these two together. They've since divorced, but they're really great friends. So really great stuff, man. So rest in peace to Monty Kiffin. So guys, please hit the like button. We appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. Okay. What's this? Silz way better than Bayless. What? Somebody's probably. Hey, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Damn, dude. We've been only on the air how many minutes? 12 minutes, and this guy's got 15. LJ's got 16. He's got 16 posts in 13 minutes. He's doing a minute. He's doing a post a minute. 17. Let's do it, man. Keep doing it. Come on, man. Come on. Let's get it to 20 before. Come on, man. You got 17 posts in 13 minutes. 18. Come on now. Come on, sweetheart. Come on, you can get it to 20. We need 2 more, LJ. 2 more, buddy. Come on, man. I know it's in you, man. This guy's the greatest stalker I've ever had in my life. The greatest stalker. Wait, no, 2 easy. No, there you go, 20. Thank you, buddy. Now you can take the rest of the day off. Too easy? You're the one here. LJ, you're the one here doing it. How is it too easy? This is my show. Why wouldn't I? Like, all right, kid. Rest of the day off. LJ is the worst and still. Hey, Eduardo, it's crazy. Anyway, here we go. You tell me what this sounds like to you. So Lane Johnson was on a talk show, and he said the reason for the Eagles' 1-6 meltdown was because of the coach's inability to adjust. Is that an excuse or the truth? Okay? Is that an excuse? I think it's a pathetic comment. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. He's pathetic. I'll tell you why. M. Reyes says, truth for coordinators. So you blame a player, like blaming a hitting instructor or a batting coach for Bryce Harper going 0 for 25. How pathetic can you be? That's pathetic. Okay? It's pathetic. It's pathetic. Gotta be kidding me. Pathetic. Here's why. You're in this fucker together. Okay? Taking shots at guys who are no longer on the team. How about this, Lane? You guys didn't play well and you quit. So you're telling me because the coaches didn't adjust, you gave up? It's finger pointing. And it's a lame excuse, even if true. Don't tell people that shit in public. That's not leadership. That's a guy looking for a fucking excuse on his own failures, blaming others. Gee, don't we get enough of that? Dude, hey, own your own mistakes. You don't have to sit there and throw your former coaches under the bus. What a bunch of shit that is. It's a pussy comment by Lane Johnson. I lost respect for you. Not always, but I lost respect for you. Totally lost some respect for you. Could it be true? Yeah. What does the media need to go? Can you imagine saying this? Hey, one of the reasons why, in a majority, what was the comment? The major reason, one of the major reasons was the coach's inability to adjust. Okay. So you're reburying the guys that you gave up on. Then why is your head coach still in the building? He was your leader. He's your greatest coach of all time. Why in the world is that guy still here if the coaches didn't have the ability to adjust? Nick's the head guy in the building. Why didn't he stop it? You know why? Because he couldn't. So the biggest enabler for the failure of the team, according to Lane, is still in the building. How are you going to have success? Help me out on this one. Help me out. Daniel, Big Silz, happy Football Friday to you, brother. You too, my man. I so appreciate it. Thank you very much, man. How in the world do you sit there and blame your coaches like that? Now, let me ask you guys. Okay? Let me ask you guys. Excuse or truth? What side of the aisle are you on with this? You taking Lane's side? He blames the coaches for this. That's right, Mark. Nobody owns their own mistakes and failures anymore. Dude, my shit with the NFL, it's my failure. Completely my failure. And look at Martin, truth. So this guy blames the guy telling him how to line up, and he gives him a hall pass for a player quitting. Imagine that. Okay? Imagine that. So Brian Johnson is the reason why Jalen Hurts looked like shit in the playoff game, and Nick did nothing about it. Oh, okay. That's a lame-ass excuse. And quite frankly, should be held inside the locker room. Hey, we all had issues last year, and, hopefully we've addressed it now. Got new coaching staff in here. You don't have to go into detail saying that our coaches last year didn't have the ability to adjust. Hey, well, Howie, why'd you hire him? Why'd you elevate him? What were you thinking? You guys keep asking me, will Jalen Hurts ever get good coaching? No, I'll take that back. Jalen Hurts will never get consistent coaching because of shit like that. Lane, not so much him, but it's a statement about how they do business. And by the way, Lane knows those coaches get turned out all the time. He doesn't have to be loyal to any of them guys. Right? Lane has his seniority, and he's allowed to say whatever he wants. No, he doesn't have the right to make an excuse for his failure. No, he doesn't. Blame why they blew up at the end of the year on others and not taking accountability. No, he doesn't. Laying blame at someone else's feet for your failure? Okay? Sam goes, the organization has been poisoned because they don't respect their coaches. Players don't respect the coaches. And you kept the guy in the building who was in charge of it. Okay? Silz, you know what's worse? The guy interviewed Lane did not follow up and ask about Nick. Yeah. Why do you think that is? Because they were just like the White House. You have to have pre-scripted questions, and you have to agree to certain questions asked about the organization. And if you don't agree to them, you don't get players from that organization. We all know that now. If you and there's certain places that now will only go to certain outlets. They won't come here. They won't come to my, and I don't care. Okay, I never needed them. I never have it and never will. Silz is a hater when I'm saying that a player comes out and blames others for their failure. That's a hater? Well, then I'm the biggest hater on that. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a hater on that. Absolutely. Okay? That's right. Then I'm a hater. There is no doubt about that. I hate that. I hate that. And this is one of your guys. This is one of your so-called leader guys. Don't you love some of these guys coming up after the fact? Why didn't you say that during the season, Lane? We don't have the ability. If you're such a fucking leader, where were you in the 1-6 meltdown when you could have stood up then and said, we need to do a better job here of adjusting, and we need to do a better job of playing? Where were all these voices? Now they're here after the fact. It's like Monday morning quarterbacking. Don't you find this pathetic? Or why are you, now I'm getting it. Why are you not believing what you're hearing and what you saw? Why are you not? Why are you protecting Lane for making another stupid ass comment? Or get this, Jalen Hurts got killed for saying the offense was 95% new, and he didn't know what Nick Sirianni's job was. He got killed for that by everybody. Lane can get killed for this too. Okay? He can get killed for this. Are you really going to look at this and say that that's not a comment unbecoming of one of the Eagle leaders and one of the guys on the team that you revere? That the reason and the major reason for the team's nuclear meltdown last year, and you kept the biggest enabler, you brought him back. And by the way, isn't that a shot at Nick and his ability as a head coach? So when he says the coach's inability to adjust, and I'm assuming he's talking more so than anything on the offensive side. Where's Nick's accountability in that comment? And like you said, Bob, the questionnaire guy didn't follow up and say, where was Sirianni in this then? Silz, can you see if you can get? Yeah, we'll do that now that he's not a player any longer. Absolutely. I didn't take much from the interview because it seemed a bit phony. It was phony, Mad Bird. It looked like a setup. Okay? That's what freedom is about. Lane is still a leader and has allowed his opinion. To what? Take a shot at his current head coach and guys who were there with him last year? Okay, not a problem there. You're right, VJ. Where was he when you needed him the most when you're in the middle of the ship going down? And you were watching the ship going down. This guy's just sitting there watching it. Big Silz, AJ Owens, MVP. What's the problem? What's the problem? He said what lots of people, including you, said about the inexperienced coordinators. Correct. How come he didn't say it during the nuclear meltdown then, dude? Why didn't he? Where was he? Why is he doing it after the fact? Thank you, John. I appreciate that, my friend. Super chats all go to the front, by the way. Where was he? What a phony-ass team. Phony-ass team of leaders. Boy, I'll tell you, that Jason Kelsey loss, I don't know, man. Silz, it seems to me the front office is still doing damage control. Ball, Kyle. Amen. Kyle, amen. 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 Hey, amen on that one, man. Silz, have you heard of any player saying that he doesn't know what the head coach does? Jalen got killed for that. Could have said, hey, man, he's really overseeing everything. And I've never seen players more disconnected with their coaches in my life than that football team. You know why? It's like Dallas. You think the players in Dallas are connected with their coaching staff? No way. They're connected with the front office, just like in Philly. Because they know that the front office runs everything. See, some of you don't think it's a big deal. I think it's a big deal that when asked the question a couple days ago, Lane Johnson, what happened last year? He said, well, the majority of the reason for our nuclear meltdown last year was our coaches couldn't adjust. Well, what about the guy who's still there? You got a quarterback saying, I don't really know what the offense is yet. I'll let you know how good it is. 95% of the offense's terminology is new. And this is going to be rectified? By the way, these are words of Lane Johnson, not me. You don't have to take a shot at me. These are his words. You know, I said this all season, all offseason. Instead of the spoiled ass millionaires just saying we played bad, everyone pointed fingers with Jalen Hurts leading the way of putting blame on coaches. Absolutely a great take, Troy. Just say you sucked. It's okay. You guys self-imploded. We didn't play well. There's nothing wrong with that. We didn't coach well. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But that front office and that organization is so sensitive on how people look at them that they go over and above to keep a firestorm starting and then want to keep it burning when they could just let this shit go away. Hey, Watch this. Jones. Bottom line, we sucked ass. Okay, wait a minute now. Does that mean you have a horrible team? No. You had a meltdown and won 11 ball games. Okay? How many people have meltdowns and win 2 games? What the really awful thing about this is, last year could have been a lost opportunity to get back to another Super Bowl, but the organization sabotaged it. You sabotaged it. But big picking, Lane Hall of Famer. So, and yes, okay. It doesn't dismiss that. That has nothing to do with his ability. Well, I'm not sure what you're talking about, big picking. What I'm saying here is factual. He's blaming others for his failure. He's blaming everyone but him. Isn't it funny? Everyone's picking and choosing why the thing melted down. But what you don't want to really look at is, here's the reason that you failed. You had a bullshit decision that was made by the front office and firing. And get this, Lane Johnson is validating Howie by pulling the rug out from under Josiah by doing that. Not Nick. He's validating that. We couldn't adjust. So you thought you could adjust with Patricia? So you couldn't adjust as coaches and your organization made a poor decision. Jalen Hurts had no chance of success last year. They sabotaged Jalen Hurts' season. This is the shit I'm talking about here. The stupid things behind the scenes where you don't let a coach coach. And this is what happens when you don't have a true head coach and you have a guy who sits on the general manager's lap. This is exactly what you get. Okay? VJ goes, hey, get this. Look at VJ. Silz, does your bullshit just flow natural or is it planned and scripted? I don't have to script anything. All I have to do is listen to your players. Just listen to your players talking. Very simple. Scripted? I don't script shit, guy. I don't script anything. I have a couple hit notes that I have here, a couple topics. I don't script shit. It's not what I do. There's no script to anything here. I don't script anything. What do you think? I'm a rip and read guy like one of those TV phonies? We don't do that here. Silz, Bob Lane can't change the subject. They're trying to win an argument about last year instead of shining a light on the promise of the upcoming season. Self-inflict, that's a beautiful comment, Bob. Bob, that's beautiful. You're right. Get this. Bob, you just did it. Some people in here keep going like this. Silz, why are you talking about last year? Because the Eagles keep talking about it. And the Eagle players keep being asked about it. And the organization still keeps bringing shit up about it. That's why. Okay? M. Reyes goes, garbage take. Wasn't my take. That was Lane's take. That the reason the team shit the bed was the coaches last year and not them. Sorry, dude. That's not my take. That's your offensive Hall of Fame right tackles take. Wrong dude. Again, attacking the guy who's delivering the message, listening to the soundbite versus the guy who actually said it. Snowflakes like LJ and Vijay need to go watch some Queen Brunson, who I don't know who that is, if they want sugar-coated. Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about. Never heard of the dude. Hey, all I'm saying to you is, hey, man, I was really shocked. I was really shocked to hear. And again, this is the stuff like Brandon Graham after the fact. Okay? This is like Brandon Graham after the fact saying, hey, we didn't have very good coaches last year. Eagles will never have a head coach with balls because Roseman would be too intimidated instead. Absolutely. Absolutely, man. Silz, this is the start of the organization and running Hurts out of the building. Just watch. Hey, I'll say this to you too, Cosmo. That's something that Angelo Cataldi brings up. Okay? It's Angelo Cataldi's continuing to bring that up. Big Pickens says the coaching staff is very important. I mean, the guys under the coordinators who work with the players every day, they're all first-year guys. We shall see. Brand new coordinator again. This is what happens when you know the general manager will hand out inflated contracts to retired aging players. How about an answer? Even Big Silz said after the playoff loss that we'd get articles on why the collapse happened. Suplex. Okay? Right. Hey, Suplex, do you know what the greatest answer would be? We stunk. We stunk. Simple, right? And get this, you can't expand on that. You just go like this, we stunk. Simple. We stunk. Okay? Very easy. Nice to know the haters are what haters, guy? So get this. BJ likes that comment of Lane Johnson blaming others for the team's failure. He thinks that's cool. You blame others for your own mistakes, dude? Tells me all I need to know about you. When you're on a football team, you don't blame others, man. Here, small thing. I lost a national championship game to Penn State. Played my greatest game of my entire college career. Okay? Our defense was lights out. Insane. I've told you this. We gave up 6 first downs and 130 yards and lost. And we had more turnovers than giving up first downs. We had 7 turnovers, gave up 6 first downs, and lost 14-10. Vinny Testaverde threw 5 interceptions and had 2 fumbles. Do I blame Vinny? Nope. It'd be easy to. Nope. And he got us there. Won the Heisman. He got us there. Nope. Not me. We're in it together. We're in it together. Actually, Vinny Greenballs, it's actually Vinny Greenhead is what Testaverde means in Italian. Nobody publicly blamed Vinny? Nope. Ever. Nobody publicly blamed. Maybe years after the fact, but at the moment, nobody came. When we went to the press conference and we were all brought up front, and it was the very first national championship game where 1 and 2 played against one another in front of 100 million people. And I was asked the question. I said, we win and lose as a team. You guys played great on defense. You were insane great. Doesn't matter. And I still believe that. Dude, if I was a boxer or a golfer or a tennis player, that's one thing. But when you're on a football team of 53 men or 22 players or what have you, and you lose, coaches, Jimmy's already said it, worst coaching job and the biggest loss in his entire coaching career. And he said it on this show here. It's his biggest failure in the history of his life. It's the biggest failure. in his life. And we all say that. It's just something I've always believed in. Okay? VJ, I have no respect for your take on blaming others. None. There's nothing you can say anymore until we move on a different topic. You have no say here with this. You blame others for your stupid shit in your life. That's a you thing. I've never seen one coach approach Jalen Hurts during the season to help him walk to plays. You always see Andy Reid talking to Patrick Mahomes. That's because Nick's not a real coach. He doesn't know how to handle it. Okay? Basically, that's right, Jeff. Jeff, no excuses for winning. There's no excuses for failure. There's no excuses. There's no such thing as an excuse for failure. You failed. Didn't get the job done. We all didn't. So it's what's really surprising about Lane's comments that as an OT, he is used to working as a unit, 5 men working together as one lineman usually don't point fingers. Completely agree. Absolutely, completely agree. Right on. No question about it. Nick not capable of sitting down and scheming like Andy does. Fly says this, don't blame others for your failure. Get over it. Move on. Hey, Fly, that's my point in this. Why won't the Eagles allow this to just move on? You know what I'm saying? Why can't they just allow this to move on? When you blame others, you waste way too much time on nonsense. It never has a solution to the actual problem. Whatever the formula was in 2022, copy it, but adjust some things. Limit the turnovers, spread the ball, use Saquon, stay healthy on all 3 sides. Excuses are tools for incompetence. Flexing. How shocked are you? Watch this. Again, some would say I'm being a little too harsh on Lane. Well, dude, you know why I'm a little too hard on Lane? Because I'm expecting more from Lane. If this was a rookie guy, I wouldn't really think much of it. But I'm expecting more from him. You know what I'm saying? I'm expecting more. Says, why do Eagles keep rubbing salt in it? Kyle. Silz, move on from 2023. I'm trying to. The Eagles won't let you. Hey, Bob, that season's over. Let it go. Let it go. We all will let it go. We want to let it go. Silz, why can't the Eagles just say they sucked last year? Because they'll never talk like that about themselves. They'll never take self-evaluation, looking in the mirror and saying this. I didn't put the proper coaches in the position to win. I didn't make good decisions there. We didn't hire the right guys. We didn't have good enough personnel last year at certain key positions on defense to win. It got exposed. Now, was 22 like 17? A one-year wonder? Sure seems it. Let me ask you guys something here. What was 2018 like? Can you help me on this one? What was 2018 like? How was that season after you guys won the Super Bowl? What was that year like? Silz, reason Eagles won't talk about last year because it would make Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie look bad. Hey, Absolutely. Absolutely. 2018 was a small letdown. It was a letdown? Lackadaisical. Okay. Why must they say it? Their actions and then of the season shows that they knew they messed up. Gatekeeper. Then why keep throwing salt on an open wound like Kyle says? What's the point? Silz, consider this. Last season is still the focus because Bob, you're killing it today. You really are, Bob. Silz, consider this. Last season is still the focus because the head coach from last year is still in the building. I think Bob Lang would have been happy to see Nick Sirianni fired so they could turn the page. That's a great take. That is absolutely an absolutely spectacular take. Let me throw this at you here, man. That's probably why they're continuing to do this, because they think somehow, because Nick's in the building, they have to somehow try to cover for him. So they're bringing up that the coordinators were the issue, thinking that relieves Nick. What it does is you're showing what Nick's true strengths were not. He had no way of stopping the meltdown, and he's still here. Do you know that nobody would be talking about 2023 if Nick Sirianni was no longer here? Do you agree with that? Okay. How does Cilio call himself an Eagle content creator but hates the team? I don't hate anything, guy. I don't hate anything. Hey, dude, I don't have to make content of the Eagles. They make it themselves. Very simple. Nick Sirianni's still in the building. It's why they continually still bring up 23. And the players and everyone else around him still bring up 23. If he's not in the building, they don't bring up 23. Because I guarantee you get out to a slow start, every fan from a year ago will bring up 23 because he's still here. Okay? All right? The size defense was not good. They just found a way to come from behind to a 10-2. Oh, that's not what you were saying last year, Forrest. You weren't saying that last year. You were one of the guys posting up all them win records, weren't you? So did you flip-flop on Desai when he was 10-1 or 9-0? Sean Desai was 10-2 when you fired him. And he had beaten numerous good coaches. In his first year, I'll tell you what, Sean Desai in his first year did a hell of a job as a coordinator. So much so, Sean McVay hired him. You think Sean McVay hires shitty coaches? It would not shock me one day if Sean Desai's the head guy on defense in Los Angeles for him out there in LA. It would not shock me. Does it shock you that Brian Johnson is on the Washington Commanders coaching staff with Cliff Kingsbury, who handpicked him to be the quarterback coach? You think there's any coincidence to that? That two quality coordinators have hired the guys you had in your building. If these guys suck so bad, why were they immediately scooped up by quality coaches who have just been hired? Cliff Kingsbury's trying to become a head football coach again. And the guy that he hired to be the quarterback coach for Jaden Daniels, the second pick in the draft, is Brian Johnson. You think that's not by coincidence? Or what? They just did that because Josh Harris wants to get back at the Eagles a little bit for firing? What would you possibly think if those guys suck so bad? Why did they get jobs right away? He is on a hell of a coaching staff there in Los Angeles, Sean Desai. Why were they hired if they blew? If Lane Johnson says that our coaches didn't have an ability to adjust, and yet these coaches were scooped up by Cliff Kingsbury, Dan Quinn in Washington, who has to win immediately, and Les Snead, Kevin Demoff, and Sean McVay. They hire Sean Desai as an executive assistant to the defensive coordinator and head coach in LA. With those job distinctions. If they suck so bad, Lane, why did they get scooped up by a really good organization? Those guys couldn't have sucked that bad. Sean McVay's considered the second best head football coach in the league. He hired him. Wow. He's terrible. Lane did mention most of the games were close, and those could have been losses as well. Jesus criminy. This guy sounds like a really great leader. Hey, we should have lost. He's basically telling you too, Mad Bird, you should have lost more of those close games than won, and they could have went either way, and our coaches sucked. This is too easy. Dude, one of your own guys is calling you out and telling you right there that you weren't that good a football team. This is Lane Johnson talking. Silz part 2. And the team can't send Nick out to run the press circuit because they can't trust how he'll look answering some very tough questions. Nick can't be trusted to kill the story. Dude, hey, Bob, I want to kill it. I'm not kidding you. I want to kill it. They won't let you kill it. Hey, Forte goes, most vanilla offense. And like I keep telling you, everyone got raises and you finished 8th in the NFL in total offense last year. Yeah, and when your tight end went down, especially in the last 4 weeks of the season, and your head coach and the coordinator couldn't help the quarterback out, you went to 18 points a game, down from 26 points a game. Congratulations to you, dude. Gannon did not suck as a DC. He did, however, have a more talented defense, and he played a shittier schedule. Okay? Man. I listened to that soundbite at least 3-4 times. And I'm listening to Lane talking about, a lot of those games last year we had to. You could have really gone either way on if we were going to win them or not. Okay, I guess. I don't think there's anything with luck in life. There's no such thing as luck. There's nothing lucky. You're either good or you're not. Luck, again, it's an excuse for a feeble-minded person and a weak person to try to hang their hat on something that's pathetic. Luck. Bad luck, good luck. No, you make your own fortune. Either you're good or you're not. Either you're a liar or you're not. Pick one. I'm like my grandpa in a way. There's no gray area. There's no bell curve in this. Eagles made a mistake letting Johnson and Desai go. It's just facts. Hey, Niner, wouldn't it have made more sense to bring those two guys back? Niner, think about this for a second. Why wouldn't you have brought Brian Johnson back? You won 11 games. Everyone got raises. Why wouldn't you want Jalen to have a coordinator for a second year in a row? You knew he was new. You hired him. You knew what his resume said or didn't say. Why wouldn't you give him a chance to grow as a coordinator also? Why would you hire a guy with no experience and then fire the guy for the same reason, knowing he didn't have the experience when you hired him? Tell me the point in that. Cosmo says, just like the Niners let go of Wilkes, Silz. Absolutely. That's a shitty move. Let's see if the 49er defense can get you into the 5th quarter of a Super Bowl this year. Because let's do this. If the 49ers don't go to the Super Bowl and Steve Wilkes was your defensive coordinator a year ago who was a field goal away from winning the Super Bowl and you fired him, it was the wrong hire, especially if your defense underachieves. That's panicking kind of shit. That's panicking. Why wouldn't you bring Brian Johnson back? And again, some of you are going to go, why would you bring him back? Well, you hired him knowing he didn't have experience. How the hell was he supposed to get experience? So let me ask you this. You think a guy who created 2 1,000-yard wide receivers last year, a 1,200-yard back, 8th-ranked offense, that's a bad year? And 11 wins. Well, Silz, he didn't have a lot of experience. I know. You hired him. I know this. You knew that fully well when you hired him. Why wouldn't you give him another year? What was the need to fire him? Why did you fire him? You needed a scapegoat? A scapegoat for what? Most teams don't go back to Super Bowls. Hey, as a matter of fact, what the Eagles did a year ago, winning 11 games, is kind of remarkable. Look at the teams that have gone on to win Super Bowls, and then look at 30 years the next year. Most of the time, they don't even make the playoffs. This team won 11 ball games, was in the race to have home field advantage. They were doing some really good things. Things went south. This lays at the feet, not of Brian Johnson, but of Nick Sirianni. This lays at the feet of the head coach not being able to stop the bleeding. Not the coordinators. Coordinators were scooped up by 2 really good coaches. Dude, if people suck, you don't get rehired immediately. You just don't get hired like that. They got hired by a brand new coaching staff in Washington. Josh Harris wants to win immediately. You think you're going to put a guy and have a guy who's get this, Brian Johnson is dealing with Jaden Daniels more so than even Cliff Kingsbury to some extent because he's a quarterback coach. So when they're in drills, he's dealing with Brian Johnson. And you put Jaden Daniels in the hands of Brian Johnson, then they come together in team drills and 7-on-7 and 9-on-7. That's when the coordinator and the quarterback coach are working together with the quarterback. The number 2 prize possession in this past draft is in the hands of Brian Johnson, and the Eagles fired him. Let's take it out to Los Angeles. Sean McVay had a chance to hire Brandon Staley, put him back on his coaching staff, and put him back in the Rams coaching staff. He got that job in Los Angeles with the Chargers because of the stuff that he did working with Wade and with Raheem in Los Angeles. How come he didn't put him back on the staff? He hired Sean Desai instead of him. These guys were out of work 2 weeks, both of them, before they got scooped up. Brian Johnson got demoted from the job he had in Philly to a lower job in Washington. What's your point? Because, what do you mean he got demoted? He did get demoted. You weren't going to put him as an offensive coordinator in Washington when you have Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff Kingsbury's a better offensive coordinator. You first tried to hire him. Cliff Kingsbury's a superior coordinator to Kellen Moore. I mean, this guy's actually worked with RPO quarterbacks. This guy's worked with Mahomes. This guy's worked with Caleb Williams. This guy's worked with Kyler Murray. Now he's going to work with Jaden Daniels. What are you talking about? Now, what he'll do is he'll elevate himself working on that coaching staff. And if Washington does what I think they're going to do, I'll tell you what, Brian Johnson and Cliff Kingsbury working with Jaden Daniels, you better hope that team don't win the East. Yeah, look at Slagger. Well, then, Slagger, if these guys suck so bad, why were they hired immediately? Patricia hasn't been hired. Oh, wait, I think he's in Atlanta doing something. I think Washington might be sneaky good. Fly, they are going to be. Skins will win the East. I think so. At lower coaching positions. Yeah, I know. That's what happens when a team publicly humiliates you and makes you as a scapegoat for your own failures, like Lane says. Lane blames Brian Johnson and Sean Desai for the failures of the Eagles a year ago. I see. Okay. All right. We are going to move on to a different topic here. Silz, in fantasy football, there are no coaches. It goes from GM to players. Boardroom guys don't get that. How he runs fantasy football, all offense, no defense. GM calls the shots. Silz, who do you think the Rams? Silz, do you think the Rams can win that division? I think the Rams are going to be really competitive in that division for sure. I definitely think he's going to be. Okay? Absolutely. They should have made the head coach be the scapegoat. Absolutely true. No question about it. Here's my boy Ace. Stills, he was most likely fired because his key piece, the quarterback, regressed, and the quarterback position is the most important position, and stated the fact at length. I'll say this to you, Ace. Once again, maybe the kid's not that good at what they were asking him to do. You go back to 22, we have a different conversation. You keep doing what you're doing, we're going to have the same conversation. He's not that good at reading defenses. He's just not. Sills, if the Eagles made a trade, I want it to be for Max Crosby. They got the money to make that happen, but they would have to give up the equity to make that happen too. You're talking about first round, second round, something in that aspect too. Sounds like a big culture issue. Lane, one of your big leaders, not a good look in the mirror, Lane. No culture. I agree with you. That's not a good look that you're blaming. And get this, again, why do they keep bringing this shit up? Now, to fairness, he was asked it. But you know how you make those things go away? Hey, man, we all shit the bed last year. I mean, I don't really know what happened. You don't just all of a sudden turn and point fingers at somebody. Jalen Carter was going to be a rookie of the year until he switched to Matt Patricia. Desai created a rookie. Yeah, that's a good point, too. Disciple, great take. When you moved out Sean Desai, Jalen Carter lost the Rookie of the Year award. Is that facts? Hey, would that be fair? When you fired Sean Desai, Jalen Carter lost the Rookie of the Year. Is that facts? Dude, I thought he was. I thought the kid Witherspoon and the kid down in Houston, I thought they were behind him significantly. Significantly, right? They were behind him. I mean, like the first 12 games, I'm like, Jalen Carter, this thing's a slam dunk. Would you not agree? When you fired Sean Desai, Jalen Carter lost the Rookie of the Year award. Defensively. Did you ever put that into your hat? You cost the kid the Defensive Rookie of the Year award by making that move. Silz, why can nobody on this team just I don't know why they can't tell the truth. That's right, dude. Coaching had everything to do with your failure. Okay? This show is about projecting. No, I'm answering a Lane Johnson question. It's not a projection. He said it. I'm not projecting. I took what Lane said in an interview on Colin Cowherd's show. Then I made my own opinion of it. I thought it was weak. I thought it was stupid. And I thought it was uncalled for. Couldn't it be true too? Yeah. But there again, who are you trying to? I mean, why are you protecting the front office? They fucked up. They fucked up, man, by hiring a person that they knew what his qualifications were. And they keep this shit going. Silz, who would be the head coach if Nick got fired? Nobody who you think. They're not hiring Mike Vrabel, Bill Belichick. They're not hiring any of those guys. They may ask them. They're not hiring those people. You think they want to go back to the broom closet too, and the owner wants to go back to the broom closet? Absolutely not. These guys don't like the broom closet. They don't like people doing their jobs as football people. No way. It'd be another guy, an analytic kind of guy, a young coach. Name me a coach they've ever hired that's been a head coach, including Andy Reid, prior to his stint in Philly. Well, Chip was a college coach, but I'm talking NFL stuff. Professor, I'm hearing Becton is looking great. Love to see him go play that right guard position. I really would love to see that. That's right. Flexing. It'll be another dude that they can, give an opportunity to. It'd be a first-year head football coach. They'll never hire anybody with any significance. Look at, dude, here. You know another organization that does that? Look at Chicago. Chicago, if I were looking at that, the only coach that they have hired in the last 30 years that had prior head coaching ability, let's do it since Ditka, would be Wannstedt was in Miami, John Fox. That'd be it, right? Where was Lovey a head coach prior to Chicago? I forget. Was Lovey a head coach before Chicago? Fly. Was Lovey a head coach before Chicago? I don't remember that. Yeah, I mean, Dave Wannstedt and John Fox are the only guys I can think of that were head football coaches with prior. So the Bears are like that. Silz, wasn't Lovey Smith the DC for the Rams? Probably something like that. Yeah, I think he was for the Rams. But I don't think he was a head coach prior to getting the Chicago job. Chicago wasn't. He didn't have. Lovey got that head coaching job. I think Lovey's only been a head coach at one place. Trestman was in Chicago. Yeah, but Trestman, you're talking about being a head coach in the CFL. Okay. Coach was the head coach, I believe, in Montreal. And I think he was the head coach after the Chicago job too. Lovey got screwed in Chicago? Absolutely. They won 10 ball games and fired him. 2 coaches they've had in Chicago in the last 30 years that were former head football coaches. Fox at Carolina, in Denver, I believe, and Wannstedt in Miami. Then he got the Chicago job. My point is that there's certain organizations that don't want to have a guy come in with their own mentality and how they do business. Silz, we all agreed to replicate 22, but Hurts was paid off of 22. So Johnson was a casualty for not replicating that regardless of the circumstances. Ace. Right. And it also exposed the offensive line a little bit more because they weren't able to protect as much. Everyone, again, that offensive line is a really good unit. But as a pass protecting unit, if they're so good, why'd they give up the third most hits on quarterback and blitzes were third highest volume of the league? If they're so good. That's not a coordinator thing. That's the quarterback picking it up. Brady will tell you that. That's not a coordinator. You can call a play. If you can't pick up where the blitz is coming from, that's on you. Pre-snap reads. Do you understand that the reason that I'm critical on Jalen reading defenses is because he can't even read a blitz first? That's a pre-snap read. You got to know where the pressure is likely to come from. That's a quarterback issue. It's not an O-line issue, really. How many times did Jason Kelsey tell the kid where he thought the blitz was coming from? He still didn't see it. If you can't see blitzing, you can't see the third wideout in a progression tree. You understand? And can he get better at that? Yeah. Because if Brady says you can get better at that, I believe he can get better at that. I do believe that. Because Brady said he got better at it the more he goes on. Okay? Silz blames the Buccaneers coaching staff for his failures. We're talking about a 4-win team versus a team that's a Super Bowl contender. In an organization, many careers. We're not talking about a team like the Eagles, who's a Super Bowl contending football team. We're talking about a team with bad coaching. And it's been amplified all the way until Tony Dungy got there. So if you want to say I blame coaches, could probably talk to 70 guys who did that. Bo Jackson didn't want to become a Buccaneer because of the bad coaching that was there. Jalen wasn't reading the defenses right. He isn't making proper checks. Held the ball far too long. That's right. Because they're asking him to read the progression tree, and he can't yet. And by the way, I think they do more of a disservice to Hurts than a positive influx of helping him with coaching. They're not giving him very good coaching. They're just not. There's only one guy. Get this. Does it make sense? The coach that he had the most success with was a coach he had a year and a half. Does it make sense? The coach that he's had the most success with had the most time with him. Bumpy start, 2-5 out of the gate, Atlanta. Shane takes over more so. Things starts picking up. I'll tell you what. Jalen Hurts has not looked good since Shane Steichen left. Doesn't that tell you more about 22? Doesn't it? Xander's going to be moved up into the rotation. He's going to be moved up into the rotation at 4 o'clock. And we will have Philly Godfather at 5:30. So, right? Do you not see that? Okay. Hey, get this. What's it? No shit. We've been saying that. Well, then how the fuck do you think Kellen Moore is going to come in here and change the world? How do you think that? In 2000, I agree with Xander. I think 2025, they'll be really good if they keep the same coordinator. You said don't blame the coaching staff. Bro, if I'm a football player on that team, I'm not blaming the coaching staff. I'm a talk show host. You're in this together. Don't make that shit public. I'm not a player. I don't play for the Eagles. You're getting me confused with an Eagle. I could say whatever the fuck I want to say. When you're in a unit and you're in a locker room, you might want to temper yourself. Silz, I was getting tired of seeing him rolling right when he left good pockets. At some point, you have to grow up as a quarterback when you're getting paid more than Mahomes. Think about that. It's a great take, JM. And that's kind of like what a lot of people are saying. Hey, dude. Hey, end of the day, you're making $51 million. You got to start reading blitzes. The answers are in play design, too. True. But get this, Jalen, you say that. The answer's in play design, too. Your first read is deep ball to Brown and not going to beat the blitz. How about this, Jalen? Don't you think Shane had more of a simplistic offense? Don't you think it was more simplistic? Read options more simplistic, don't you think? Right? Hurts grew under Shane. Up this completion percentage and was the most accurate passer beyond 20 yards. And why was that, Marina? Because everyone feared his legs, not his arm. His arm accentuated who he was on the field. Let me give you my assessment. Let me see what Bob says here. Silz in 22, the Eagles ran the RPO included and used the short to intermediate passes. In 23, they didn't run as much and switched the intermediate and long passes, forcing Hurts to hold the ball. Hey, Bob, here's my assessment of Hurts in 22 versus who he is today. In 2022, Jalen Hurts became the best read option quarterback I've ever seen. Ever seen. You know, in that Chicago game when he got injured, and it was I think it was a penalty on a play, and he dropped that. I forget who he dropped it into. He dropped that pass into that bread basket, and get this, he was hurt in that game. How he got to stop paying quarterbacks after a good season. Wentz now hurts. And you watched him throw, and then when you watch him get into the open space, I'm telling you, when he missed those 3 games in 22, that was a red flag for those guys upstairs. And they don't want anything to do with that. So instead, they slowed and regressed his progress by trying to do something completely different. And now they think they're going to hire. Get this. Let me ask you something. If you could make the same mistake in hiring a guy with great experience, or no, if you think you can make a hire with a guy with absolutely no experience and think that that was still going to benefit Jalen Hurts, don't you think the Kellen Moore hire is also in question if he's the right guy also? You've hired one coordinator since Hurts has been in the building that has had a substantial impact on him. You've hired Nick, who failed. You've hired Brian, who you say failed. And you hired Shane, who was a success. So of those 3, 2 have been failures. You're assuming that you've hired. This is, you know, to Lane's point, he's not wrong. He's just wrong to blame him publicly when that's your team, guy. So you're assuming that they're going to make the right hire when they didn't a year ago, and they didn't initially. Okay. Silz, Kellen's got a pretty good record. That's the argument. He's got a pretty good record. Well, not for winning. Not postseason winning, but yeah, 2 number 1 offenses, not awful at all. Like a fantasy team. Like an all-star team. Like a dream team. They ran a vanilla RPO system last year. Didn't have the brain of Shane Steichen in the room. There's a reason Shane's a head coach. He also made Minshew a Pro Bowler after Richardson got hurt. How crazy is that? That shows you what kind of coach you had. You took a shitbag Gardner Minshew and turned him into a Pro Bowler. Anthony Richardson, who was 51% completion percentage at Florida, and you turn that guy into somebody where you're like, I can't wait to see 23, man, or 24. What that kid looks like. He might be somebody pretty decent, man. Holy shit. Right? K. Moore, like, what 35 years old? Used to play quarterback, was in Dallas doing coaching work. Trust Kellen Moore more than Brian Johnson. Well, Jeff, did you like Dak's work in Dallas? Jeff the Bone, did you like Dak's work in Dallas? Because that's a person that he coached and supposedly had all this success with. The same guy you say sucks and says that he's no good. Dak sucks. Well, then what makes your coordinator good? Kellen Moore was in the building with him. What are you gauging it on? If Dak sucks, you hired a suck-ass coordinator, didn't you? Which is it? Either you like what he did with Dak or you don't. I mean, Dak sucks, but he's a good coordinator. Which is it? I'm confused. I'm really confused. Dak Prescott is just not a good quarterback. He doesn't win in the postseason. He's not very good. He didn't know what he was doing. Kellen Moore was his offensive coordinator in those years. Kellen Moore's been fired 2 years in a row. But he's a good coordinator. Silz, I hope Moore utilizes Goddard more. I hope Jalen. No. Cosmo. I hope Jalen finds Goddard more. Okay? I hope he finds him more. See, to me, the success of the football team, when they were more dominant, was when Goddard was involved. When you guys had Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown involved, in my opinion, sorry, guys, I thought you became a fantasy team. Silz 22 was fast break offense. Great. Showtime. Showtime Lakers using Hurts as the point guard. He could read and react. In 23, they turned from point guard Hurts. That's a great take to a three-point shooter. That's not his game. That is so good. That is absolutely so good a take. Absolutely. That right there. Look at this. Jalen Hurts was Magic Johnson in 22. Then they turned him into a decent three-point shooter in 23. He wasn't Steph Curry, that's for sure. He was Magic. So you took Magic Johnson off your team. And you had a mediocre three-point shooter. That's a great take, Bob. That's right. Dude, watching Jalen play in 22 was fun. Fast. Hey, I would have paid him. I get why you paid him. I don't get why you changed him. Brian Johnson coached Richardson at Florida. Hey, Jalen. Brian Johnson coached Richardson at Florida. And now Shane has him. You watch Anthony Richardson this year. I didn't think shit of him at Florida. I really didn't think shit of him. Jalen's not the issue. No shit. The problem lies with the organization. The lack of coaching's evident. The coaches are too talented. The Eagles are too talented not to improve from last year. It's all about the coaching. It's all about the coaching and not the player accountability. Is that what you're saying? So you're saying the players have no accountability in this? I don't buy that. I think good coaches. Hey, watch this. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Let's use the best that's in the sport right now. Okay? Let's use the best that's in the sport. Those guys both need one another. There's going to become a point when Mahomes, he's not going to need Andy Reid anymore. Just like when Brady didn't need Belichick anymore. You know what game plan you have. You know what you're doing. This is what Russell Wilson thought. He thought he knew better than Pete Carroll. He thought he didn't need Pete Carroll any longer in Seattle and that it was let Russ cook. Well, he got to Denver. He got exposed because he's not Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes. Those guys were schooled by really good football people. There's no coincidence that you have a great coach around you, no matter if he's a defensive-minded guy or an offensive-minded guy, that helps you evolve into being what you become in this league. Bill Walsh with Montana. North Turner with Troy Aikman. North Turner left. Jimmy left. Organization started going south. Every single guy, and you're hoping that your team, hey, just like eventually when you are a student in college and you go through all first, second, third, fourth year in college, time to graduate. It's time to graduate in the NFL the same way. Okay? But how can you do that in Philly when you're constantly, okay, Prince, you tell me this then, Prince. How can you do that in Philly when you're constantly changing these fuckers out? How can you do that? Reed. That wasn't my bitch with Lane. No one said Lane's wrong. Lane's wrong for being publicly blaming people for his fuck-ups. That's his mistake. Me, I'm a talk show host. When you're on a football team, you're in it together. Okay? That is his asinine comments. Shane helped turn around a 2-5 team's offense because Nick was in. Hey, get this, Forrest. Here's one thing to show you that how everyone thinks Kellen's going to be this new RPO type coach. Nick couldn't do it. Kellen can. Nick coached Phillip Rivers. Styles like that. Drop back quarterbacks. You know what's funny? That's what you got mostly when it comes to your quarterbacks is backups in Philly. They're more Nick style of quarterback. Did you ever think of that? Nick's backup quarterbacks are more to his style of play calling than the RPO. McKee, Pickett, all those guys are drop back guys. There's not one guy that resembles anything Hurts does. All right, I'm going to take a timeout here. We're hoping to get Xander on at the top of the hour. We're also Philly Godfather at 5:30. Please hit the like button. Keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.